It's thought that at least 70,000 Australians suffer from Parkinson's disease. Absolute numbers are sketchy because it's the designer disease, so named because the symptoms differ greatly. There is no definitive journey travelled by the sufferer, and so its profile remains low. Quite simply, Parkinson's disease in Australia needs a champion.
And 30-year-old Nerissa Mapes might just be the girl for the job. Decades younger than most who are diagnosed with Parkinson's, she's determined to find a cure for the disease in her lifetime. And Nerissa joins us now in the studio. Good morning, Nerissa.
Good morning, Nerissa.
Good morning.
What symptoms did you have? How did you know that something was wrong?
Well, I didn't really know anything was wrong because I guess I'm a bit of a positive person, but they crept up slowly on me. Things like using a knife and fork became quite difficult. I'd have welts on my fingers from trying to control the cutlery, getting my shirt on and off, trying to find the sleeve of a jacket. I'd never find that left sleeve, and when I tried, my arm would shake. So I guess because they crept up on me, it wasn't like overnight I woke up and...
And is it true that for a while you thought it was just an injury, a sports injury?
Yeah, that's right. I had a stack on the netball court and and hurt my hand, and my typing skills didn't ever return, so I thought it was to do with the netball injury.
So eventually, when you were diagnosed, what was that moment like? I mean, obviously, for one so young, it's quite a shock, but how was it delivered to you as well?
Well, it was delivered not so eloquently. It was, my neurologist told me that, as I would have told you last time I saw you, you have Parkinson's disease. And he didn't tell me the last time he saw me, and it was quite a shock, and I was actually ready to go out on a date that night. I was dressed up and feeling pretty relaxed and happy, and yeah, got a bit of a shock diagnosis.
Look, I'm suspecting that for a lot of people who are diagnosed with Parkinson's, their first response would be, what is it? But you actually know what it is because your grandmother has it too.
Yeah, and that was my first thought. I went straight to my grandmother, who's really is quite ill. She's in a nursing home, bedridden and unable to walk and feed herself and barely able to talk, so that was my point of reference for Parkinson's.
So you must have felt defeated. I mean, from the outset, you know, you must have felt just shocked.
That was, I guess, the hopeful thing is that prognosis is not certain for anybody, so that's not necessarily my path, which I didn't necessarily know at that time, but
that would have been your first thought, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty shocking at first.
So you immediately leap to the conclusion that A, you should be old, and B, you're probably going to be bedridden.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't know a lot about Parkinson's at that stage. Even though my grandmother had it, I still didn't know a lot about it, so wasn't quite sure of what and my neurologist didn't tell me a lot about it either. He didn't give me any information or...
So really, so you leave the diagnosis with what? No greater understanding of what it is that you have?
Yeah, that's right.
And no kind of prognosis, I guess, no treatment options, nothing.
Yeah, it was a case of, you know, you need to go to hospital and we'll talk later on.
Really?
I mean, that to me is just, it's shocking that you can walk out of there without hope.
Yeah, hope, I guess, once I sort of came to terms with what I was dealing with, I guess, I've never wondered why I have it or that kind of thing. I guess I just had to get on with life.
So 2 years on, so that was 2 years ago, you're now 30 years old as I understand it. What's changed? Has your disease progressed at all, or do you undergo treatment that stabilises it? What's different?
It's all about medication, and medication doesn't help with a cure or solving the symptoms. It just masks the symptoms so that I can get on with my daily life. So it has progressed. There's new symptoms that have arisen, but yeah, managing it with medication, and I think I'm looking pretty normal.
Yeah.
What on a day-to-day basis? What do you have trouble? What do you have trouble doing?
It's pretty. It is a day-to-day kind of battle, and it could be one day typing could be quite difficult, or doing our buttons on a top, using a knife and fork. Sometimes those things are quite difficult. Other days they're okay. So it just depends on what's happening. If I'm stressed or tired or...
Sure.
So all right. On that point, there are things that you are aware of that trigger it. Like if you're stressed, that triggers symptoms, does it?
Yeah, that's right. So I guess if I'm anything but kind of travelling on at a normal, happy kind of level, then symptoms do kick in. Absolutely.
Do you have the shakes like a lot of people do? Because I was reading something in the research about this.
Yeah. Well, 70% of people with Parkinson's have tremor, but I'm one of the 30% that don't. So.
And therein lies the problem, I guess, in diagnosis, is that the symptoms are so broad-ranging. I mean, what other symptoms are there for someone who's sitting at home watching this, not feeling quite right?
Yeah.
What should they look for?
So the main symptoms are tremor, that's the main one, rigidity, so if your muscles are kind of tightly bound, slowness of movement, lack of dexterity and motor skills, and that's what it's about for me. It's more about the slowness of movement, that dexterity and motor skills are kind of going out the window rather than tremor.
All right, so you know, you have no idea of how life will play out from here on.
No, that's the challenge, that I don't know how it's going to play out, and because of the life phase that I'm in, I don't know about my career, how long I'll be able to work for. Relationships are obviously going to be a little bit more difficult with someone with a degenerative neurological condition.
So do you put those, do you put those things on hold?
No, I'm still going on with my life. I don't want Parkinson's to be an excuse for not achieving anything.
Yeah. So, all right, so in the States, there is Michael J. Fox. There is Muhammad Ali, high-profile individuals that have Parkinson's that bring it to the forefront, to bring it to the awareness. We don't have someone like that in Australia. How important is it to find someone that will take this on?
I think it's very important. I think Parkinson's doesn't have a voice in Australia, and it needs someone to start making some noise about it, to get that profile, to get that awareness and understanding, and then get those funds in to raise money for research and into a cure.
And I want to talk to you about this fundraising project because you've had enormous support from Phil Burgess, who's your boss at Telstra. We've had him on the show before. He's a lovely man. Tell us what sort of support he's given you and what your big plans are.
Sure. Well, Phil's my mentor. He's agreed to be my mentor for Perspectives on Parkinson's, or POP, my foundation. He's got a lot of experience in not-for-profits and that kind of thing. So he's just giving me advice day to day and helping me with networks and introducing me to people that can help out.
Now, I read that your first meeting with him was supposed to be 3 minutes. How long did it go for?
Over an hour. He said that he had 3 minutes in his diary, and then I came in and took a little over an hour.
How do you do that? I mean, how do you make the difference when you're talking to people, when you want people to understand what this disease is about, and you want people to contribute time or money? How do you do that?
And you've got 3 minutes to do it.
Yeah, well, I think it's the personal story, and it's explained to people the very raw and real things that are challenges in my life, and what I'm doing about them. So I think Phil was just impressed with the fact that I'm not that I'm taking this challenge on, and meeting it head on and doing something about it rather than just sitting back.
In a kind of odd way, does it feel like your life has a real purpose now after the diagnosis?
Yeah, I think so. And I was talking to someone the other day about this, and he said that I probably wouldn't be achieving in the way that I am if I hadn't been diagnosed with Parkinson's. So
yeah, incredible.
You spoke in federal parliament last year. With the, as I understand it, with the old government, with the Howard government. Have you had contact with the current government? Is there support there? I mean, there are new drugs being trialled in America the whole time. Are they available out here?
That's one of the things about the current situation in Australia, that we have a very limited range of treatment options. And there's a couple of different medications and one device that we're trying to get on the PBS here in Australia. I've met with Nicola Roxham a couple of times, and my counterparts in Parkinson's Australia are doing some work in that area, trying to get some new medications on board. But
how expensive are the drugs?
The drugs that I'm on, they're not that expensive, but the ones that aren't on the PBS certainly are. I was talking to my neurologist about options, and he gave me an option of one particular medication that would cost $1,000 a month if I was to choose to go into that.
Gee, that's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's out of the range of most people, I would imagine.
Absolutely. But
especially when you're paying for other treatments along the way.
And particularly too, I would imagine, because, as I said in the introduction, people seem to think of Parkinson's as a disease that afflicts the elderly. And so therefore I would imagine that they think, well, okay, it's happening to people in the later stages of their life. So
it's more about managing it.
Yeah, and the energy's not there to push from a younger's perspective.
Yeah, and I've got a lot more years to be living with this disease, so that's why I'm trying to raise funds and awareness and understanding and look at innovative treatment options and innovative research projects that will make a difference.
And that needs money, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
How much money do you need to be able to launch a fully fledged foundation and actually be involved in good quality research?
That's sort of the hundreds of thousands mark, I think. Talking about what I'd like to do with my foundation POP is evolve it into a grant-giving organisation, and that's when you have to have some serious money. At the moment I've raised about $45,000, so I'm baby steps. But yeah.
So we need a very wealthy philanthropist who's watching the show today to actually get involved, because,
Yeah, absolutely.
As you said earlier, your grandmother has the disease. Is it genetic?
No, the sort of the standard line is that it's a genetic predisposition with environmental factors that trigger it. So,
right. But there are statistics that say that 10% of sufferers, it runs within families, within 10% of sufferers, doesn't it?
I've had some tests done around the genetic element, and in my circumstances, not. It's relatively common amongst elderly people, so. It's
It's interesting, isn't it? Look, before we go, I want to ask you about your meeting with Rashida Ali, who's Muhammad Ali's daughter, and we've met her. She's a really dynamic, amazing person. What was that meeting like, and what sort of effect did she have on you?
We met at a luncheon at 15, and I went up to her.
At 15 restaurant in Melbourne.
That's right, yeah. And I went up to her afterwards and introduced myself. And first of all, she was absolutely shocked that someone my age could have Parkinson's disease. And this is someone who's been living with it very closely with her father for more than 20 years. And she was very impressed about what I was doing with Pop. And she's actually written a children's book explaining Parkinson's to children. And I've given that book to my nieces. And I explained to Rashida that I had done that, and my niece had done a book report on it, and that had made her day. But I sent her also some information afterwards, and yeah, she's been very encouraging.
Yeah, she's a great ally to have too. I'm sure she understands, lots that other people wouldn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nerissa, good luck to you. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and we wish you all the best with Pop.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and of course if you want more information you can go to pop.org.au.
Thanks.
Thanks for that.